The question is that the motion be agreed to. I call the member for Gilmore.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Well, what a great private member's motion by the wonderful member for Macquarie, Susan Templeman. I've known the member for Macquarie for many years, but since coming to this place we share another bond, and that is our communities have both been through the most horrific disasters we could imagine. Of course, there were the bushfires and the ongoing bushfire recovery that will take years. Then there were floods, many floods, and in fact 4 different disaster-declared floods in my electorate and 7 flood events in the Eurobodalla. Then there was COVID. It's perhaps easy to say that, but the reality is that drought, bushfires, floods, COVID and ongoing bushfire recovery have had a long-lasting impact on my community. Take the last flood declaration in the Eurobodalla Shire Council area. Deputy Speaker, it was just 5 months earlier that a previous disaster-declared flood occurred in 2020, causing massive damage to Araluen Road just west of Moruya. This road, which has been hit by flooding again in May 2021, has very steep and difficult terrain, has suffered multiple significant landslides and is proving extremely difficult to fix. It has and continues to impact local residents and businesses, either unable to access the road or making alternate routes significantly longer or just not feasible. It's a really difficult situation, one which I am thankful community members have been contacting me to voice their concerns. But I also want to thank Eurobodalla Shire Council for their efforts in investigating both temporary fixes for this road and also examining a longer-term alternate route. I can assure residents that I will continue to advocate on this issue. But, Deputy Speaker, given the gravity of the situation, I ask that the federal government extends the time available under the National Disaster Relief and Recovery Arrangements so that Eurobodalla Council can deal with Araluen Road and with the now very real problem of secondary tree death along our local road network from the bushfires. Deputy Speaker, during the floods and before that with bushfires, our emergency services volunteers and workers, they are simply our heroes. Our SES and RFS volunteers were working locally, contending with local flooding, but they were also sending teams to assist around New South Wales. They did this quietly. That's just what they do. Deputy Speaker, wherever there is disaster, our local HMAS Albatross Australian Navy Defence members are never far away. They were there during the bushfires rescuing people and dropping supplies, and in the 2021 floods, Defence members from 816 Squadron at HMAS Albatross at Nowra were providing aerial search and rescue support further north in the state and where needed. Deputy Speaker, our frontline workers, our supermarkets, our pharmacies, our charities, organisations, everyone played their part, and today I say thank you. And of course our local community members who assisted with distribution of supplies and relief efforts during and in the aftermath of the floods, thank you. Deputy Speaker, I commend Part 3 of this motion. The federal government does need to step up and provide more support where it's needed. The alternate fix for Araluen Road will not come cheap. I implore the government to ensure adequate financial assistance is provided to Eurobodalla Shire Council for both temporary work and a proper longer-term fix for Araluen Road. I also implore the government to do more to provide funding to fix the disastrous environmental damage caused by flooding to our riverbanks, lakes and waterways. Deputy Speaker, a few weeks ago I was knocking on doors and talking with residents at Lake Conjola in the Shoalhaven local government area. Conjola Park, just up the road, lost a devastating 89 homes in the Currowan bushfire. Not long after, at Lake Conjola, there was a massive flood. The lake flooded again. The contrast between bushfires and looking like a bomb had gone off and then a massive flood is just too much to take. But residents at Lake Conjola have been faced with this for many years. Residents were angry. They didn't have any problems about telling me how it really is. Sometimes I think governments at all levels can lose perspective and forget what it's really like on a day-to-day basis to live. Bushfires, flood, over and over, it takes its toll. So I ask the government again, where is the $4 billion emergency response fund announced 2 years ago but never spent? This fund can provide up to $200 million per financial year to be spent on natural disaster recovery and mitigation. Now is the chance for the government to provide residents, businesses and communities the disaster mitigation they so desperately need.